Are you struggling in learning something, or do you have preferred ways in learning something? Hello everyone, I'm teacher Daphne and today's lecture is all about learning styles. So before we start our lecture, here are some of our objectives. In this lecture, you will be able to gain knowledge about the different learning styles in different theories. And you will also recognize the importance of knowing one's learning styles. So, many people recognize that each person prefers different learning styles and techniques. But what does it mean by learning style? Learning style refers to an individual's preferred ways, to absorb, process, comprehend, and retain information. It is influenced on how students learn, how teachers teach, and how to interact. So, do you think learning style, or do you think it's important to know our learning style? Absolutely. Most people have a preferred way to learn. Some learn best by listening. Some have to observe every step, while others have to do it to learn, okay? They have to do it to learn it. By acknowledging that there are, in fact, different ways of learning, we, as educators, must also acknowledge that we need to vary the manner in which we present our information in the classroom. So let's start learning about the different learning style taken from different learning style theories. Okay, like for example, Fleming VARK model. We will be learning the Honey-Mumford model, Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, and the done and done learning style model. However, in this lecture, we will just focus on two theories, which are Fleming's VARK or VARK model and the Honey-Mumford model. Let's begin. According to Neil Fleming, students and teachers need a starting place for thinking about and understanding how they learn. Just a brief introduction about him. He is an educator and has devoted his career to investigating learning styles and determining how individuals learn through modality preferences. So let's check his model. The acronym VARK is used to describe four modalities of students' learning. These different learning styles are visual, auditory, reading and writing, and kinesthetic. So let's get started with visual learning style. Visual learners often learn by seeing, okay? They actually have high ability for visual recall. They prefer to learn using visual representations such as graphs, posters, maps, and displays. They frequently use hand movement while talking and have tendency to look upwards while thinking. Fleming added the need to recognize that the visual learners prefer graphics. So this is actually true because I am also a visual learner, and whenever I want to learn something, I make sure that there are pictures or perhaps videos that could enhance my learning. And whenever I talk, I also do some hand gestures. How about you? Do you also do these kinds of qualities or characteristics? Then perhaps you have visual learning style. Okay, let us move on. Oral or auditory learners. What is this? So, an oral or an auditory learner have a preference of listening. Okay, so they learn by listening. They favor the audio and have a high quality or have a high ability, for auditory recall. They prefer repetition, summaries, and benefit from discussions, lectures, stories, and podcasts. They also have the tendency to tilt their heads and use eye movement when concentrating or recalling information. Fleming added chatting and email as they possess more abbreviations, how can I say, slang and non-formal language. So these are the characteristics of an auditory learner. So if you have this one, then perhaps you are an auditory learner. Okay. Another thing that we could see here is that in Fleming's VARK model, we can actually have here the read or write learners. These learners rely heavily on the written word. This preference of learning style is most used by traditional educators. They prefer to have text as both a way to gather information and to share information. People who prefer this kind of modality are often addicted to PowerPoint, the internet, lists, diaries, journals, dictionaries, and any other things that have words in it. Okay? So this is actually according to Fleming. All right. Another thing here is letter K, which is kinesthetic learners. What does it mean by kinesthetic learner? Or what does it mean by kinesthetic? All right, so for kinesthetic learners, they rely on doing something. So they learn something if they do something, if they do it. They depend on interaction within the learning environment and especially with their bodies. They also easily recall events or information attached to an experience or the feeling of physical event. So more likely, kinesthetic learners can learn best if they are moving around. I noticed this when I was in university. One of my classmates cannot concentrate or cannot focus on studying if he doesn't move around or if he doesn't walk. And I asked her, why do you keep on doing that? And she said she could better understand something or she could actually memorize something if she keeps on walking or moving his body or her body, I should say. Yeah. So that is kinesthetic learners. They learn by doing something, manipulating something, or moving their body itself. Okay. So I hope that is understandable. Now, to determine the learning style within the VARK model, Fleming designed a learning style questionnaire, and you can see it right here. It's actually 16 items, so I will just show it to you briefly. It looks like this. It's questions, and then there are answers there, choices, and then all you have to do is to answer. Now, if you want to know your learning style, you can use this questionnaire designed by Fleming. Okay, so that is Fleming's VARK model. Moving on, we also have another theory, which is the Honey-Mumford learning style model. These learning styles were developed by Peter Honey and Alan Mumford, based upon the work of Kolb, who is one of the theorists, and they actually identified four district learning styles or preferences. As you can see in the picture, we have here activist, theorist, pragmatist, and reflector. Now let's talk about it one by one. If we say activist, an activist or activists are those individuals who learn by doing. So this is actually similar with the kinesthetic learners. They need to get their hands filthy, or they need to touch something in order to know what it is, or in order to know what it's like, how it feels like. Okay? So the learning activities can be brainstorming, let's say problem solving, group discussions, even puzzles are possible, and competitions, also role play is possible. So we could actually utilize these kinds of activities if we have activist learners. Okay. Another learner or learning style, according to Honey and Mumford, is the reflectors. What kind of learners are these? They learn by watching and contemplating what happened. They want to see encounters from various alternate points of views. They gather information and use the opportunity to work toward a suitable conclusion. And with this kind of learning style, they actually like to do paired discussion, self-analysis questionnaires, even personality questionnaires, timeouts, observing activities, feedback from others, coaching, and interview. There are also other kinds of activities that we can include, but I want you to think about the other activities as well. Now, if you thought about other activities, you can write it down on your note so that later in the future, maybe you can use them. Okay, so those are the activist learning style or learners, and then reflector learners. Okay, the third one here is the theorists. So these theorist learners require models, ideas, and truth with a specific end goal to participate in a learning procedure. They actually like to break down and integrate drawing new data into a methodical and consistent hypothesis. So their choice of learning activities includes models, statistics, stories, quotes, background information, theories, of course, and others. There are many more. So if you have this kind of characteristics, then perhaps you are a theorist, or you have a theorist learning style. Okay, moving on, the last part that we could see in here is the pragmatist or pragmatist learners. Okay, so who are these learners? These learners have the capacity to perceive or to how to put learning into practice in their present reality. They conceptualize ideas, and creations are of, let's say, constrained utility. Okay? Unless they can see an approach to put the concept practically in their lives. So what kind of activities can we provide to them? They actually learn better through taking time to think about how to apply learning in reality. So they like situational activities, also case studies, problem solvings, and of course, more importantly, discussion. So they love to do debates, those kinds of activities. Okay? Now, just to make it very simple, these learners are more likely they have logical learning styles. So that's how we can see these kinds of learning styles. I do hope that you understand these 4 types of learners from Honey and Mumford. Okay, let's summarize. So far, we learned about Fleming's VARK model and the Honey and Mumford model, right? So in the next video, we will talk about Garner's theory of multiple intelligences. I think you have heard or you have already learned about these 8 multiple intelligences. And we are also going to talk about the Dunn and Dunn learning style model. So let's see the differences. They're not actually different. They are more likely similar. But anyway, let's take a closer look about these 2 other theories in the next video. Okay? So thank you so much for listening. See you in the next lecture. Goodbye.